Hi, my name's Carl, and I'm a winemaker. A lot of people tell you to follow your dreams. I didn't. I don't recommend it either, but sometimes dreams work out, sometimes just by accident, kind of like what we warned about against on our truck at Allegro. So how did I get to this place? We're down in Allegro in Brogue. We followed the signs, and I'll tell you a little bit how we got there. Obviously, there's some of my neighbors who didn't really think that they needed a winery down there in that part of the world. So I was born in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Tullahoma is a Cherokee word that means red dirt. So it's pretty appropriate that I ended up at a place there's a lot of red dirt. Winemakers are very tied to their soils. The soils tend to express the kind of a form of different grape flavors and grape varieties and styles come from those soils. So years ago, when I was planted on this earth by my parents, my dad was a physicist and my mom was a biologist. But more importantly, my dad's family was artistic. And I was basically, through most of my childhood growing up, looking for what medium I could kind of express myself in. And I couldn't find it for a long time. As I was a young kid, one of my first formative experiences was when I was 10 years old. And my dad was a home brewer also, and made beer. And I remember as a 10-year-old helping him cap bottles of beer, and I actually made my first soda pops and stuff like that at that same age. And so that was kind of my first experience of actually making things. But it's not, as I got older, it's not really what I did for a living. I did normal things. I got jobs. I went to college, had a job, drove trucks then. I was a computer person. I cut wheat with combines. I delivered produce and things like that. But it was never really anything that kind of was my artistic medium. Eventually I had a side job at a winery, just as a part-time thing, and I just fell in love with it. I finally figured out some place to use all my different varied backgrounds, while at the same time kind of getting some kind of meaning out of what I was doing in my day-to-day life. Once I started making wine, even more importantly, because there's this cross-section between the work you're doing and the artistic side that comes out of you, I realized I couldn't really work for someone else. And that was really the biggest decision in my life, is I realized, as an artist, you have to think in terms of what you're doing, and you kind of need to strike out on your own eventually. So when we came to Allegro in 2001, not only did I realize I was going to be a winemaker, I realized that my predecessors, John and Tim before me, had been trying to make great wine. And there's something different between just making wine and making great wine. And it was really something that struck a nerve in my head. And I thought, okay, this is going to be unique. I can't imagine I can really do this here. So what does it take to make great wine? Well, it's the intersection of a bunch of different things. You've got to have the right soils, the right grape varieties, the right grape grower. Most importantly, you need to have a winemaker who doesn't screw it up in the cellar along the way. But it also takes a lot of help, and that's one of the most important things I learned. This is a picture of my wife's hand. Obviously, I couldn't have done any of this stuff without her help and the help of my family, the support of my family. Being creative and artistic in a lot of ways is selfish on a lot of levels, but luckily we've been able to turn it into a business for us, but also with the help of a lot of other people. So as a winemaker, I do have an ego, so I think in terms of, I can do all this stuff myself. Well, it turns out you can't. You got to have at least some help along the way. So one of my most important lessons is not just that I need help from a couple people, I need help from a lot of people to kind of get this project going and keeping it going. We all work together kind of to bring about what I had as a vision years and years ago when I came to Allegro, to put it all together in one place. When we all come together, the different grape varieties, the different soils, and the different flavors and the different winemaking techniques all kind of come together at one point to create a whole almost rainbow of different flavors and colors, like an artist's palette that you can then use to kind of create the sense of what a whole winery is about. Like aging in barrels then, our business has actually matured over time. It's turned into something that's very different than what I first assumed it would be when I got to Allegro. I thought it'd be very much smaller, thought it would be much more directed. Turns out it's turned into kind of kind of a mess of hoses and stuff. There's stuff going everywhere. Winemaking, I like to describe it as being kind of 50% janitorial and like 49% plumbing and like 1% winemaking. People don't understand. It is a very messy kind of thing. And it takes a lot of time and effort on a lot of people's part to get it into kind of a nice ordered state of affairs. But more importantly than that, even once it gets to this point, it takes still more effort to actually get out and sell the wine and have it be part of kind of the community. Everybody says, oh, winemaking must be really hard. It's not. It's actually pretty easy stuff. Just don't screw it up. The hard part actually is getting the wine to move off the shelves, or else it kind of ends up like this, old bottles of wine. Now, we do make some bottles of wine specifically because they are capable of aging, and it is one way for me to kind of see that we are on the cusp of being able to make great wine, because great wines sometimes are described as wines that can age and get better with time. So wine eventually has made me contemplative. There's a saying in the wine world that's in vino veritas, which means in wine there's truth, which is true. Robert Louis Stevenson said wine is bottled poetry, or I think it was Franklin said sunlight held together by water. These are all true. But really what I've noticed about the winemaking and being a winemaker is it's kind of caused connections between myself, the people who helped me, and also our artistic endeavor with the community here in New York.